For the record, I will be recording this meeting.
And for the record, I don't consent to the recording. I'm Scott Conlon.
And I'm Tara DeVoe, and I do not consent to being recorded.
Okay.
So the purpose of the meeting is it's a re-engagement meeting. So to come together to prepare for Nathan's return to school on Wednesday. We've put together a document with a re-engagement plan. Basically, at this point, describes our expectations when Nathan returns.
Okay. So it's your opinion that Nathan's not allowed to criticize any staff whatsoever, according on this document, correct?
Insulting staff.
There's no material difference from your worldview. Is that correct?
Okay. Insulting staff, such as saying, I don't respect you.
That's not an insult.
Okay. And that's a difference of our opinions, I think.
Yes, but you can't be punishing someone for having dissidence in the state of Washington. Freedom of expression is a thing that exists. I know you don't agree with it whatsoever. You know, like through this whole process, I've lost all respect for you, completely 100%. Do you think that's an insulting fact? Do you feel insulted?
You're entitled to your opinion.
Understood. But he's not. Is that correct?
Okay. Repeatedly going up to staff, telling them that we do not respect them, we're considering an insult.
Okay, even though it doesn't meet the definition of an insult.
And that's a difference of opinion.
Wait, I got a question. Why can I tell Mr. Stevens that I respect him, but other teachers I can't tell them that I don't respect him? Like, isn't that kind of unfair?
All right, so we've had this conversation many times before. If you have a disagreement with a teacher, if you're feeling that they have done something that warrants you not respecting them, let's sit down, let's have a conversation, let's figure out the differences so we can move forward. So not repeatedly going up to them and restating that you don't respect them.
Well, it's not repeatedly. It's at max, once per day, maximum.
Well, I would say repeating over days.
Well, could I say something? Usually when I come to school, I spend so there's 1 week, in the whole school week, and there's usually 2 separations of 2 weeks in between those, and I only spend 3 hours in a whole school week basically, because I get here, y'all don't like what I've said or done, and then remove me.
Okay, understandable.
What things do you do that get removed?
Speaking my opinion, recording for my own safety.
Have you been told by admin that those things are not permissible in school?
That's irrelevant because those things are protected. So you guys aren't allowed to enforce school policy that violates Washington state law. That's a cold hard fact.
And I'm not going to be able to argue that here right now.
Of course not.
Right? You figure that in the courts. If that's the direction you're going, we've just laid out the expectations for Nathan's return.
Yeah. My expectation is that you guys get rid of these expectations because they're ridiculous. Do you care about my expectation?
I hear you. We disagree.
Okay, well, then I disagree with this. Now what?
I don't know, we're at an impasse, I believe.
Okay, so what's the plan? Basically, if he has opinions, he's not allowed to share them in school. If those quote insult your emotional safe space, which by the way, that was the most ridiculous email I've ever read in my entire life. Emotional safety? Really? You worried about adults' emotional safety?
And students.
Him sharing his opinion, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, him sharing his opinion violates their emotional safety and therefore it's, quote, dangerous.
Okay.
Is that correct?
These are the expectations of Nathan's return. If you don't agree with them, you're entitled to not agree with them.
Yeah, but what are we going to do? Because he belongs in school. Is that correct?
He does belong in school.
Okay.
And he needs to comply with the rules.
He does not need to comply with unreasonable requests. He does not need to comply with school policies that violate the United States Constitution or state law. That's a fact of the matter.
And that disagreement we're addressing in the courts, that's my understanding.
Yeah, so here's the problem with it, right? So we're obviously gonna go to court, and 2 or 3 years from now, we're gonna find out that I was right the whole time. But the damage is being done to him right now. And you guys are allegedly adults. I'm only asking you to behave like one. If a kid walks up to you and says, I don't respect you, it's not that big of a deal. He's not hurting anyone. He's not doing drugs at school. He's not bringing weapons. He's not threatening anyone. You agree?
That language, again, we've stated that we believe that's insulting language. It continues to occur.
I asked you if he was, in your opinion, using drugs, bringing weapons to school, threatening anyone, or committing violence. Those were the 4 questions.
Right. Yeah, no, none of those things.
Okay, so again, I don't know why we're constantly escalating with this. I guess what's the plan here? Because let's say he shows up to school tomorrow and he walks straight up to you and says, I don't respect you, because I'm sure that's probably true at this point. What's going to happen?
We respond with discipline.
What kind of discipline?
I'd be looking at a suspension.
A suspension. How long of a suspension, given the fact that we're out of our short-term suspensions?
Could be a long-term suspension.
Could be a long-term suspension simply for saying, I don't respect you. Do you think it's likely that we'll be putting that to the test?
That's up to you.
So what makes you think that more punishment is going to make him respect you? What makes you think that?
Those are the options we have, right? Because we've expressed verbally our expectations and our...
I hear you repeat a lot of stuff back, right? Oh, these are the expectations, NPC responses. Do you actually have any like critical thinking skills at all?
Again, these are the expectations.
You can't even answer the question, do you have critical thinking skills?
I'm here to make sure that you're aware of the expectations when Nathan comes back. That's the purpose of this meeting. There's a place to sign at the bottom. You can choose to sign or not.
That's what I think of your bullshit.
Okay.
That's what I think
I
of
didn't
it.
even read it for you. Can I read that?
Yeah. I don't have anything left to say.
Nothing at all.
No.
So we're not going to discuss how to solve this in a long-term fashion or anything like that.
No, these are the expectations. I've informed you of those. Nathan will come back on Wednesday.
What about my expectation?
My job here is to make sure we're implementing the school policy as we understand it.
Okay, but you didn't answer my question. That's an obvious dodge. What about my expectations as a parent? I have a parental right to be included in discipline proceedings and the raising of my son. It's a parental right. And I don't know why you sit here and you think that you can supersede my parental rights. These rules are unreasonable by definition.
And that is your opinion.
Yes,
Yep.
I'm
We have
his
a
I'm his
school
parent. Like, you know that, right? I'm his parent. I have an absolute more authority than you in raising this kid into an actual good functioning member of society. All you guys do is brainwash kids and indoctrinate them into woke ideology. That's all you do in this school.
And that's your opinion.
It's not an opinion, it's an actual fact. So he's welcome back on Wednesday.
This
Okay.
Wednesday?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't get too excited, right? Obviously, they're just going to suspend you for having an opinion once again. Is that right?
Those are our expectations. If he violates school policy, we'll consider discipline.
Just so you know,
Hey, wait, Mr. Collin. Me telling Miss Bachmeyer I don't respect her, that's an opinion, right?
Yes. Also an insult.
can you explain to me why that's an insult? I honestly don't get it. Like if I walk up to someone and I say, I don't like you, how am I insulting them? How am I disparaging their character? I'm not, he's not calling Miss Bachmeyer a stupid bitch or a dumb bitch who weaponizes her sexuality against 13-year-olds. He doesn't say those things, despite those being opinions. Those would be insulting because we're attacking her character, right? If I said that you looked like an overgrown penis, right, that would be an insult and quite mean, right, obviously. But me just saying I don't like you, or I don't respect you, or I think you're a brainwashed cuck, those are not necessarily insults.
What's the point of doing that?
What's the point of doing that? To share your opinion.
But haven't we been taught if you don't have anything else to say, don't say anything at all?
That is not the legal standard in this country.
Correct. It's correct. But what is the point of telling somebody something negative about it? What's the point of that? But to get a rise out of it.
The point is so that they change their behavior. The bad behavior that's spurring on their opinion sharing is to fix the bad behavior. So I'm not sure if you're aware of this, maybe you're not, right? Ms. Bachmeyer levied a false allegation of sexual harassment against my son last year for doing a Fortnite dance, right? That is unacceptable behavior. She has yet to apologize for it. The only thing that was done was it was swept under the rug after she embarrassingly changed the Skyward report. But he still had to suffer a long-term suspension. Not to mention we have other people at this school that have done quite terrible things. False reports, and I have evidence of all of it. I've shared it in great detail with Mr. Collin here. This bad behavior needs to be called out. These adults need to be held accountable, and part of being held accountable is for you to tell people how you feel. It's how our society functions. Instead of violence, we share our opinions, right? If we all just bottle it up, could become violent in the future, and that would be terrible, right? And so that's what our laws are designed to do. We can walk up to government agents and say, hey, I don't respect you. I don't like what you're doing. I think you're a moron. All these things are allowed under the First Amendment and protected by Washington state law.
There's a difference between what's allowed and what's against morally.
Well, hold on. He's being suspended for moral violations now?
No, it's so when he walks up, there's disruption of the educational process.
False. It happens in a hallway. There's no education going on in the hallway.
You're still setting a tone for school.
What, tone policing now?
I'm saying, like, you want everyone to feel safe everywhere they are. Students, staff.
I would love to know
safe.
how saying I don't respect you once in a hallway is disrupting the educational environment.
Other students hear it, it goes through that.
What learning is going on in the hallways?
So other students hear it, therefore the educational environment is disrupted somehow. What's the actual material disruption?
When the kids start talking about it in the band class.
First of all, there's no evidence that happens at all. Secondly, even if they do, right, that would be the kid, if they were interrupting the class, that would be their material disruption. Saying an opinion couldn't possibly be a material disruption. So for instance, let's say you have a Christian who says, I believe there are two genders. Is that disrupting the educational environment?
It could be.
It could be. So just simply having a religious opinion in this school is disrupting the educational environment?
Can I say something?
What?
It could be disruptive if you're sharing your opinion during like classroom time.
Sure.
But if you're just sharing it at lunch or like in the office, if nobody's like doing anything, or at like just lunch, just like anywhere where no classroom time is happening.
I just want to just clear it for the record. So if my son were to say at lunch, there are only two genders, you would consider that to be a material disruption. Is that correct?
Well, we have students who identify as different genders. A comment like that could cause them to feel unsafe at school.
So you would call that a material disruption?
Yes.
Okay. What if he says that Jesus is God? Would that be a material disruption? There are definitely atheists at this school, right? Make them feel emotionally unsafe. Why not that?
Okay, we're off topic.
Yeah, we're off- yeah.
Well, no.
We are.
Hold on. This is not off topic, right? If you guys are laying out these insults, do not insult staff, or create an unsafe environment, I need to understand what that is, right? Because you're the one saying it needs to be that way. So could you please answer the question? If he says God is Jesus, or Jesus is God at lunch, is that a material disruption? Because there are atheists present.
I mean, I would have to consult the law and the policy.
Consult the law and the policy. Okay, that seems like an unacceptable answer. So what happens when he comes to school and he says something like, Jesus is God? You're going to perhaps punish him. We don't know right now. We need to do some research on it. So how is he supposed to follow any of these dumb rules that were set out if you can't give me a standard to command him to follow?
We have seen repeatedly he's made this statement. We believe that that does qualify as an insult, and so for that specific statement, I can speak confidently that we're going to respond with disciplinary action.
What about other statements, though? What can he say at school? Maybe that'll be quicker.
I mean, expressing opinions generally is safe, but unless it causes a disruption to the learning environment, disruptions in school.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Let's assume that one of the transgender kids says, trans women are women, and that offends my son, makes him feel unsafe. Is the trans student going to get suspended?
We're going to focus just on Nathan and not other students. But we can't talk about other students with you.
I'm asking you about a policy question, which is a reasonable one. I'm trying to find out if this is a two-way street. So, could you answer the question?
Restate your question.
Sure. If a transgender student were to say the phrase, trans women are women, and my son felt unsafe or disrupted at school, would you guys suspend the trans student for saying that?
Look, we always start with a conversation with students around their language and how it affects others.
Not with my son, you don't.
No, we did in the beginning.
I don't think that's true at all. In fact, mostly he just got suspended for false accusations that didn't even happen. That's what happened in the majority of the early beginnings of this. So again, I'm trying to understand the standard. So if he says something that anyone else could feel is offensive, punishable, yes?
If others are offended, yes, we need to look at that as a possible harassment.
Okay, and just to be clear, so Nathan has been going here for about 1.5 years now, right? We're almost through year 2. He has never, and again, please correct me if I'm wrong, he's never had a harassment, intimidation, bullying complaint by a student at this school, not once. Is that correct?
I mean, to my knowledge.
Yeah. Okay, and so every time someone feels harassed, bullied, or intimidated, we're talking about staff, adults, every single time. So it's not whether kids feel harassed or feel offended by a statement. It's entirely whether a staff member feels intimidated or unsafe or whatever it might be. Is that correct?
No, we look at everyone in the school environment. No one deserves to be harassed, intimidated.
Well, that's interesting because obviously Nathan has filled out some of these HIB forms, right? And every single time, without fail, you've said, we are not going to punish or take any action whatsoever based on your feeling offended or upset, bullied, harassed, or intimidated. Yet on the other foot, you do very freely. What's up with that?
We determined in those situations that we didn't see how harassment occurred by what the teacher said or did.
Well, hold on. That's not the standard. The standard is if someone feels upset, right?
We consider both, right? How the person feels and what actually occurred.
Not when it comes to Nathan. You don't care about his feelings.
I do care about his feelings.
I don't think you do, because when he was being thrown out of classes simply for being there, literally saying nothing at all, you guys took zero action. You didn't go to the teacher and say, hey, you can't do this. You know, he's got to be doing something, talking, somehow interrupting. You just said, no, it's not harassment, even though it happened every single time he went to the crash room, which, by the way, is the only place that he can eat at school, if not in the cafeteria. So, you know, if he needs a snack or something, I don't know how that's supposed to work functionally. So when that was happening, you sure as hell didn't care about his feelings. You don't care about his feelings when you suspend him for simply stating an opinion like, I don't respect you, to a staff member. So, I mean, do you honestly think here that you actually care about his feelings?
Yes, I care about his feelings.
Okay. And what evidence is there to suggest that's true?
Look, I'm interested in what Nathan has to say. I listen to him. I listen to you. Again, I just have to follow the policy of our district school.
Okay, the policies that you're citing here, there's no policy in the school district that says that you have to be respectful. Nothing. Doesn't exist.
What's the core value of our school?
Well, again, but it's crazy because you cite policy, and then when I show you that there is no policy for the punishments that you're doling out, you go, oh, well, it's a core value. So it's arbitrary. You're just making it up whenever you want to suit your own needs. I mean, am I crazy here?
It's extremely common in schools across the state, across the country, to have the expectation that individuals treat each other respectfully, right? And when that doesn't occur, it's very common for that behavior to be addressed with discipline, potentially, right? It's very disruptive to the school environment.
It's not, though, because on the 14th, as we went through before, he had a recording device on him. He told Miss Bachmeyer she was bad at her job and didn't respect. And then he went, had a normal day, went to every class, no issues, no discipline whatsoever. So how is it materially disruptive? It's just the evidence doesn't support this opinion you have. What it is, or what I think it is you have an ideological bent and you don't want dissident opinions at the school. That's why you'll say, oh, you can say trans women are women, but you can't say there are only two genders. It's called viewpoint discrimination.
I'm just going to go back to the engagement plan. Like, those are our expectations. We welcome them back.
What about, again, our expectations? I have an expectation that he can come to school and enjoy his First Amendment rights.
I understand that. And exactly what his First Amendment rights are within the school are things that you're contesting in the court.
Do you feel bad about bullying a 14-year-old kid? I mean, at all?
I don't believe I'm public.
100% you are. 100% you are. You're following him around during school hours. You're interrupting his interactions with peers. You're constantly removing him from school for the most minor of perceived insults by staff. I mean, if this doesn't classify as intimidation and bullying, I don't know what is. By the way, you also use law enforcement to enforce your bullshit school rules. I mean,
yeah, I would like to say I feel very bullied because it feels like every time I come to school, I'm very targeted just because of my opinions. And the start of the year when I came here, I would call myself one of the most social kids. But now at the end of this year, I can't socialize at all. And I would blame that on the school.
I don't have a ton more questions. In regards to the law enforcement, essentially when you had him removed from school, that was to enforce school policy. Is that correct?
We've been suspended, right? And so we need assistance moving him from campus.
Yeah. So, but he was suspended for a school policy violation, nothing criminal. You don't suspect him of any crimes or anything?
Well, at one point he was trespassing.
I mean, there's a lot of questions about whether that's true or false. But okay, so other than trespassing, you didn't have the school come because there were threats or any kind of violence or drugs or weapons or anything like that. It was because he refused to turn off a recording device. Is that correct?
He'd been suspended and he wasn't. You were refusing to come pick him up, as I remember.
Yeah, but he was suspended for an audio recording device, correct? And telling Ms. Bachmeyer he thinks she's bad at her job.
Yes.
And then when he came back, The only reason you called law enforcement was because he was violating the suspension.
Yes. And yes, yeah, he was violating the suspension, and if looked at that day, he was also had a recording device.
Okay, but again, the only reason law enforcement was involved was because he was at school despite being suspended. Or are you saying and having an audio recording device?
No, I mean, because he was on campus despite being suspended.
Okay. So if he was just on campus with an audio recording device, you wouldn't consider that to be like a police situation?
No, I don't think so.
Well, then how do you explain the 22nd when the only thing he did was bring an audio recording device and you called the police and had him removed?
No, well, he also suspended him, and he was just going
He wasn't suspended on the 22nd. That's not true? That's false?
Wasn't it the day after?
I have to go back and look at my dates.
Well, sure, I mean, I guess that's fine, but but I mean, what preceded this very meeting was the 22nd. He showed up to school, he was allowed to be here, he had an audio recording device. You guys, I guess, emergency removed him and then called law enforcement?
That was a long-term suspension.
Correct. For having an audio recording device.
Yeah.
So a moment ago, I said, so if he just had an audio recording device, you wouldn't think that was a law enforcement event. You said, yeah, I don't think so. And then literally that's what happened on the 22nd.
Well, it was after he was suspended, but law enforcement.
He wasn't suspended when he showed up to school in the morning.
No, but after having an audio recording device.
Washington state law, you have to, it's a two-party consent for recording, and you may not record if the parties do not consent.
So that, again, is a misunderstanding of the law, because I don't think you understand how consent works in the state of Washington when it has to do with recordings, for instance, right? I think you guys have made, how do I say this in a polite way? I think you guys have consistently made fools of yourself while I'm having these conversations with you. And I can legally put them on YouTube and share them with everybody in the school district, 100%. Because you guys said you don't consent, that's fine. You don't have to consent. I told you you were being recorded, you were aware that you were being recorded, and you engaged in the conversation. That's how the law works. It's notice. That's what's required under the law. I mean, you guys should really read it, because your opinion on this is just wildly incorrect. I mean, do you disagree? Have you guys read the law, or do you guys just think it's consent-based?
Following the guidance of our attorneys.
Well, that's not true. I spoke to your attorneys. Literally, on Friday, I spoke to Sarah Mack, and she told me that she has never spoken to you guys about any of these policy stuff.
Yeah, because there's other attorneys in the district.
Okay, and those attorneys are telling you that two-party consent works. I mean, if they're giving you that legal advice, you should fire them. It's the dumbest shit I've ever heard in my entire life. Again, if you just a 10-year-old could read this statute and understand it, right? At the very end, it says consent is deemed once the person recording declares the recording on the recording in a reasonable manner in which everyone would understand. That's what it says. So, I mean, I don't know how you could interpret that any other way. So, again, it's not a violation of Washington state law. And then, again, even if it was, let's just assume I'm completely wrong here and your attorneys are right. It is not a crime. It's not a crime. In other words, you're not going to get jail time for recording. It has to do with the admittance of evidence in court proceedings. It has to do with potential civil liabilities in which, causes of action in which you could sue someone. It's not a crime like you can be put in jail for recording. It's just not true. And then again, those conversations, the declaration is only required when you're having a private conversation. Like this is a private conversation. The door's shut. People aren't free to come in and listen to this. So a declaration is required. But if we were having this conversation in the hallway, it's not a private conversation because it's occurring in the hallway with third parties present. So, I mean, hopefully that kind of clears things up for you guys a little bit. But regardless, and then also your district policy doesn't say there's a blanket ban on audio recording in the district policy either. There's some wording about electronic devices, but it's mainly geared towards cell phones and texting and using apps and stuff while you're at school. It doesn't really have to do with audio recording specifically. Back to my original discussion. So, do you think having an audio recording device is a police event? Yes or no? No. Okay. Then why did the 22nd happen? Why not just start his suspension the day after, like you did on the 14th?
Because he was suspended and he wasn't leaving campus.
Well, no,
He was picking up.
Failure to comply with a reasonable request.
It's not a reasonable request.
It is a reasonable request.
What makes it reasonable?
Because he was asked, it was not anything that was going to harm him or in any way, shape, or form. He was asked to not have recordings at school. That is a reasonable request, period.
Well, that's called circular logic. It makes no sense. And it was going to harm him. Every time he hasn't had a recording device, or a lot of the times when he doesn't have a recording device on him, staff make things up. In fact, even on the 22nd, I identified 4 different lies from 4 different staff members on the 22nd via the audio recording device. So to say it's not going to harm him is materially false.
So here's the expectations. He may not have a recording device when he comes back on Wednesday. It's simple.
It's not simple at all.
It is.
No, it's not. Not even a little bit simple. You
I
can't
want
you
Nathan
can't
back at
even.
school. I enjoy him so much.
All right.
I love our conversation.
I have another meeting at
But
3:35.
that is the expectations there in front of you.
Again, this is unreasonable. There's no policy that backs up your position. There's no law that backs up your position. You're just arbitrarily deciding that you don't want staff and their lies exposed. Materially false statements.
These are the expectations of school that all students are held to. This is the expectations for Nathan if he's coming back. I really want him back at school. I want him to be able to stay at school.
Likewise.
I really, really have had great conversations about him and his future and education.
Likewise.
And I just
What was so great about
this?
those conversations?
Because we talk about his future and he wants to work with you and the business you're going to open and the things he wants to do. I help him register for high school and he was excited to take all these business classes in high school. He's so fun to talk to. Insight and stuff, but it breaks my heart when he comes back and does simple things like breaking school rules and then can't be in class because of recording or just failure to comply with a reasonable request.
These are unreasonable requests.
It's
Telling
our
him to go to
opinion.
the office when he's done nothing wrong is an unreasonable request. It's like definitionally unreasonable. And then the other thing is, if he's so great at school and you guys love having him around so much, what do you care if he audio records? It's not getting shared to the public. I've already explained this to you guys. What does it matter? Like, honestly, if he's so great and awesome at school, then why not just not care? It protects him and his safety.
Record at school. We just cannot record it.
It's just circular, though. You don't have a good reason behind it, which, by the way, is the definition of unreasonable. If I go, okay, cool, what's the reason? You go, he just can't do it. There's no reason behind it.
Schools have rules so that they function. And if everybody doesn't follow the rules, then schools don't function.
Okay, that's generally true. But how would having an audio recording device stop the function of the school?
Well, now you're going into teachers and the union and stuff above my head, and I have to go to the union president.
So you're saying that the union is the one that says that kids can't record in school?
No, they're not the one. It is school policy, and you can't have electronic devices at school, period.
Well, then
And
why?
a recorder is an electronic device.
Then why bring up the teacher union?
Well, because that's another issue that, recording.
So
I wouldn't want to be recorded no matter what, and I taught PE. It's just very uncomfortable.
So it's just to do with staff discomfort, essentially.
Well, what's the point of recording?
Because we have over 15 examples of staff making materially false complaints about him. Materially false, that are provably false. Like, for instance, one of the worst ones was Mr. Smith said that he left the classroom without asking permission and that he was gone and eventually returned at the end of class. Okay, That's materially false. I have the video. He was gone for a minute and 53 seconds out of the classroom to use the bathroom. When he reported him missing via email to Mr. Sanderson, Mr. Sanderson replied back to the email, said he had been gone for a minute and 53 seconds, and Nathan was in the classroom with Mr. Smith when he reported him missing. This is a factual thing that actually occurred. That's why we need an audio recording device. We've had Mrs. Jones accuse him of saying faggot. We've had him be accused of racism towards Mexican students who were materially false. Even Scott Conlon here did some of those investigations and determined them to be false. This is why the audio recording device is so important, because he's being harmed by staff making things up that are not true.
Well, we can't have electronic devices.
Right.
So I give you a good reason, right?
But you can't have electronic devices at school.
So, but that's what makes your position unreasonable. That's what makes the request itself unreasonable.
But schools have right to make their rules and
They don't have a right to violate the law and generate false reports and not be held to account. Again, there's no school policy or
all
law.
electronic devices.
Okay, so if I have a cochlear device, I can't have it at school. That's an electronic device. What about an insulin
It's a
pump?
disability.
Okay, so what? The policy says no electronic devices. That's what it says, right?
You also have
We have to accommodate
individualized education plans that are the law as well,
that are federal law.
right? I mean, electronic devices that are permitted, I mean, are acceptable.
We can go on,
Yeah. and
This is
we can't.
the
I've got another
expectations.
meeting with a teacher.
and I know we'd like you to sign it, but if you would choose not to sign it because it's still the expectations.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm not going to agree to a bunch of nonsense. Yeah, 100%. It's never going to happen.
Nathan, I look forward to seeing you Wednesday.
I do too.